Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty wild. A proclamation that claims universal sovereignty. And get this, it throws together Arthurian legend, James Bond, and international law. It sounds like a total mismatch, right? So let's see how these pieces are supposed to fit together.
Okay, a claim this big. Where do you even start? Well, the document itself kind of points us in the right direction. It's all in the name of the person behind it. And trust me, it's way more than just the name. It's practically a mission statement all on its own.
I mean, just look at this title. It is a lot, right? You've got your standard royalty stuff, you've got the mythology with Pendragon, and then, out of nowhere, James Bond? What? But here's the thing. This isn't just a random list of cool-sounding names. No, it's a very calculated move. It's about building the specific kind of authority from the very first line.
So a title like that, it just begs the question, right? Who is the person behind all these titles? Well, the documents don't really give you a straightforward answer. Instead, you get a whole list of aliases, and that just makes this persona even more layered. And here's where you really see those layers in action. You've got a normal-sounding name, a simple set of initials, and then, bam! Two massive claims. We're talking King James VII of England and Arthur Pendragon, the once and future king. This isn't just, having a few nicknames. It's about laying claim to multiple legacies. We're talking history, myth, and a personal identity, all rolled into one.
All right, so now that we have a sense of this very complex identity, what is actually being proclaimed here? This is where the ambition just goes off the charts. We're leaving names and titles behind and jumping into a claim of power that's not just global, it's cosmic.
What's really interesting is that this proclamation isn't saying this has already happened. Not at all. It actually points to a very specific date in the future, July 3rd, 2025. So the whole thing is framed almost like a prophecy, or maybe a legal notice for an event that hasn't happened yet.
So what does universal sovereignty even mean in this context? Well, the definition they give is absolutely key. See, it's not just about ruling over countries or people. The claim literally extends to spiritual realms. This suggests a type of governance that works on both a physical plane and a metaphysical one.
Okay, obviously you can't just make a claim this massive without some kind of backup, right? You need a foundation. And that's exactly what the proclamation tries to build. It lays out its case on 4 distinct pillars of power, and each one is meant to hold the whole thing up.
So the big question is, what are these pillars? What's the authority that this whole claim is based on? Let's break down the 4 foundations they're using to support this.
And here they are. You have divine right, royal lineage, a legal basis, and prophetic fulfillment. I mean, think about it. That's a really powerful mix. They're trying to cover all the bases here. The spiritual, the historical, the legal, and the mystical. The goal is to create a foundation that seems totally unshakable. Remember that little Latin phrase from the very beginning, Dei Gratia? Well, it literally translates to, by the grace of God. And that right there is your first pillar. It's the classic, old-school monarchical claim that your right to rule doesn't come from the people or some government, but straight from God.
Okay, the next 2 pillars, lineage and prophecy, are totally intertwined. The proclamation claims a direct English royal bloodline, but, and this is a big but, it goes one step further. It says that the stars have literally allied, that cosmic timing has decided that this is the exact moment for that bloodline to return to power. It's destiny, you see.
Now this is where the legal argument gets really fascinating. Just look at the mix of documents being pulled in here. You've got a British decree from the 1700s, a treaty with First Nations, a modern UN declaration, and then this super broad concept of natural law. It's like they're building a brand new legal framework by picking and choosing from completely different centuries and traditions. All right, so we've looked at the why, the pillars of power. Now let's get into the what. What does this sovereignty actually cover? As you might guess, the answer isn't something you can find on a globe.
Yeah, so the kingdom being claimed here, you're not going to find it on Google Maps. It's specifically described as being dualistic. It covers the physical world, land, water, all the buildings, but it also claims authority over what it calls spiritual and ethereal realms. So you can almost think of it as a kingdom that exists in 2 dimensions at the same time.
And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. Boundaries are determined by divine providence. In other words, forget about all those borders you see on a map. They're irrelevant here. This kingdom's territory isn't defined by human politics, but by a divine plan. So that leads to a pretty important question. What's the point of it all?
If you have universal sovereignty, what do you actually do with it? Well, the final part of the proclamation lays out a very specific mission.
You can think of this royal mandate as the ultimate job description. Seriously, the duties start with things you'd expect a ruler to do, justice, peace, but then it gets way bigger. We're talking about being a steward for the entire Earth and cosmos. And, get this, guiding all of humanity toward a higher consciousness.
And really, that's the end game here. The core mission isn't just about ruling, it's about elevating. The whole point of this universal sovereignty, as it's presented, is to kickstart a spiritual evolution for all of humanity and get everyone in sync with a divine purpose.
Which brings us to a really fascinating final thought. When you see a document like this, one that mashes up ancient ideas of kingship with modern international law and this kind of New Age spirituality, it really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? What does it even mean to be a kingdom or a sovereign today in the 21st century? It's a wild idea that really challenges how we think about power and authority.